Stream audio check 1, 2, 3, 4. Sound check 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Ludden. I'm a reporter at the Arizona Agenda, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's debate. The Citizens Clean Elections Commission is a sponsor of this event. As the state's voter education agency, Clean Elections is the official sponsor of Arizona debates, so voters have the opportunity to hear directly from the candidates, ask questions on the issues that matter most to them, and vote informed. All registered voters can vote in the general election, which will be held on November 5th. The voter registration deadline is October 7th, and early voting begins October 9th. Voters that are watching this debate live, you can submit a question at any time by emailing debates@kc-a.com. You can send a text to 408-840-8350, or you can call 480-937-1253. We may not get to all audience questions, but we will do our best. Tonight, we'll be hearing from candidates in Legislative District 26, which covers a portion of Central West Phoenix and part of Glendale. We will kick off the evening by hearing first from the candidates in the Senate race, who will debate their opponent for approximately an hour. Then we will move to the House candidates and conclude around 8 p.m. Only the candidates currently debating will appear with their cameras and microphones on. Candidates, you will have 1 minute for your opening and closing statements and about 1 to 2 minutes for your responses to voter questions. We encourage an open exchange of dialogue between opponents. If you feel the need to respond to another candidate's comments after they conclude speaking, you may do so. I may limit responses for time management purposes, and we remind the candidates and the audience that this is a respectful, courteous, and professional environment. Our goal tonight is to connect candidates and voters so our electorate may vote informed. So let's go ahead and introduce the candidates. Voters will elect one of two candidates running for the state Senate, which are Democratic Senator Flavio Bravo and Republican Victor Harris. In the House, voters get to vote for two candidates. Your candidates are Democratic Representative Cesar Aguilar, Democratic Representative Quante Cruz, Republican Skyla Edwards, and Republican Frank Roberts was invited, but he's feeling under the weather tonight. We'll now bring in our Senate candidates. The order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by alphabetical order by last name, starting for opening comments. Closing comments will go in reverse order. Alrighty, so Mr. Bravo, will you start the opening remarks, please?
Good evening, and thank you to the Arizona Clean Elections Commission for hosting this debate, and to all the viewers for spending your Friday evening with us. My name is Flavio Bravo. I'm a fifth-generation Arizonan, and I have the honor of serving as your state senator. 2 years ago, I ran on a platform of supporting public education, expanding affordable housing, and improving healthcare outcomes across our community. Since then, I have introduced and passed multiple legislative proposals advancing these priorities out of committee and out of the state Senate chamber. Just in 2023, I recognized the urgent need to support our neighbors who are unhoused and homeless living on the streets and help secure state funding for emergency shelter programs. This year, I worked with our educators to improve teacher contracts and led legislation in support of Arizonans with autism, which was included in a bipartisan bill signed by Governor Hobbs. Even with this progress, our district and our state continue to face great challenges. I humbly ask for your support so that I can continue to fight for a more just and livable future for all Arizonans.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, whenever you're ready.
Hi, I would like to thank the Clean Elections for hosting this event. I'm off the bat. I am not a politician. I'm a regular citizen. My name is Victor Harris, and I'm running for Arizona State Senate. I have lived in Arizona for over 40 years. I am a U.S. Air Force veteran, father of two, and a grandfather of one. I have worked for the city of Phoenix. I've worked for city of Phoenix as a police officer, as a Section 8 and a neighborhood preservation inspector. I'm also a leader in my church. I'm running to improve the lives of Arizonans and also in LD26. I would be honored to have your vote for the state Senate. I've been here for many years. I've seen a lot of changes. I've lived in the LD area for 26 years, and I've seen a lot of changes. And so I'm here to make a change. And so if you would honor me by voting for me in this election, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's kick off the conversation by talking about education, very important topic here in Arizona. Do you believe Arizona's K-12 public education system as a whole is adequately funded? And if not, can you detail how the state should be making more investments in that area? Mr. Bravo, you're up first for this question.
Thank you. I don't believe that the state of Arizona is adequately funding education. Any candidate, previous serving legislator would point to our ranking. We're typically ranked 48th, 49th in the entire country when it comes to per pupil funding, but that is as it affects the students. I have also noticed when you drive through the parking lots of many of our elementary and high schools, you will find teachers who double as Uber drivers and Lyft drivers. And I have always made it a case they are doing that to supplement their income, right? They're doing that because they're not earning enough. The state of Nevada sometimes will pay for these billboards that will say, come to our state. This is the difference you would make as a public educator. So unfortunately, I think that's the reality, but how do we change that, right? How do we actually move forward? Well, it doesn't help that this past year we were in a budget deficit. Thankfully, we sustained making significant cuts to education. We were able to avoid that, but we have to think of our funding mechanism in the long term. And the prediction is for at least the next 1 or 2 sessions, we'll still be dealing with this deficit, but we need to be thinking of where our dollars being spent, for example, on the ESA programs, that is estimated to be about a $400 million back hole. And the state cannot afford to be paying for students who attend public schools, but then also be subsidizing private education. I would always recommend that we restore the ESA program to support students with disabilities. That's what it was intended for, students whose needs truly could not be met at a public school. And I think only when we do that will we be able to better fund all of our public schools.
Thank you. And I do want to talk more about vouchers in this next question, but Mr. Harris, your response, do you believe Arizona's K-12 public education system is adequately funded?
I think the public Arizona public schools is funded, but there's a lot of other things going on. So you Senator, he's mentioned that the budget is over budget and that it will cost $4 million, to fund ESA. But ESA is ESA has helped more families, because if the families in Arizona, if the school systems are not providing the adequate education, I think the parents should be able to take that money, which I think the kids get $14,000 per kid, and I think they're only taking $7,000, and that other $7,000 goes back into the education system. So it's not hurting the system, but this is giving the folks in the parents opportunity to put their kids in somewhere where they're getting a better education. So I think this overall the schools they're funding a lot of money, but but look at the results. The results, as the senator said, he said it's 48. So it's like that's not a good track record for education. So what I would do, I would move to put more emphasis. There's a lot of if I was there, I would take a look at the budget for education. Where's the money going? Is it going to the top levels all the way down, or it's not reaching the teachers? The teachers are only getting 2 or 3% pay hike. So I would move to make that 6 or 7% pay hike.
Yeah, Mr. Harris, I'm going to cut you off there because it's been about 2 minutes. But
right.
Can you answer the question if you believe public schools are adequately funded in Arizona?
Oh, if they're adequately funded, yes, they are.
You do believe it? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And I want to, since you both mentioned vouchers, empowerment scholarship accounts are a big point of contention in the legislature. Do you support the extension of ESAs to all Arizona students? As Senator Bravo mentioned, they are recently universally expanded. And what reforms to these vouchers would you support, if any? Mr. Harris, you're up first for this question. If you can get 1 to 2 minutes to answer that, please.
Would I reform make any changes to the ESA or to the vouchers?
Yes, and do you support the universal expansion of them?
I think I do. I think education is paramount in all areas. So I'm looking at we could change eligibility where more people would have access to ESA. ESAs and vouchers are different. They come from different pots of money and so forth. So I would also use promotional fundings towards for lower income families. And so there's a lot of things we could do in the Senate and in the legislature. But ESAs, I think ESAs are a great tool that the parents can use to help their child in education.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Bravo, your thoughts on that universal expansion and any potential reforms?
I want to clarify, it was not 4 million, it's 400 million that ESAs are costing the state of Arizona. And I also want to share, I am all about school choice. My parents worked very hard with the city of Phoenix as employees to send us to Brophy. My sister went to Xavier, but those schools have endowments. We have scholarships. Never did I expect the state of Arizona and taxpayers would subsidize my education to go to a private school. And so as I knock on doors, as I meet with families, we represent a district with families that are facing many different issues, especially when it comes to working moms, single working moms. There is no salary cap on ESAs. I know people that work as lobbyists who have said this is one of the worst written policies ever, that are making over 150,000. But of course they're going to cash in and get 7,000 per child and take advantage of the state. And that's really sad that Arizona is on par with the state of Louisiana with having no accountability measures written into the ESA voucher program. So I absolutely would continue to advocate to restore it to its original form, because again, the state cannot afford to be paying for students to go to public school as well as private school. They predicted that this would lead to a sudden drop-off, that students would just evacuate and change from their neighborhood school and go to a private school. But if you think the majority of the state of Arizona, we have a lot of rural communities. That's not a reality for them. People typically go to school where they can communicate, where they can navigate, where they can travel to by foot, where their mom or dad can drop them off. This policy proposal was never really well thought out and was pushed towards the end of Governor Ducey's administration. And he walked away really not having to deal with any of the aftermath.
Okay,
But
thank you. Oh, do you want a quick response, Mr. Harris?
yeah, um, I understand what the senator is saying, but the look at the reality of it. You know, this is not busting the budget. I would like to see. I would like to see where that is. I'm not privy to that information that he is, but I would like to see where that is busting the budget. I don't see where the ESA is busting the budget, and you know, most of the parents can go to send their kids. Yeah, they may not be able to go to Brophy or to some of the higher end school, but they can move to a charter school. They can move elsewhere. So, you know, I can't see putting all this money into a system that's not working. So, and let the parents that take advantage of the ESAs, so they can have school choice where they want to send their kids. And there are other avenues. There are AXA. You know, you can, you know, a person can spend $2,000 on AXA and to a student, a particular student, and that person, and then you can get that money back on your taxes. So there's other options out there, you know. So
Yeah,
you know,
if you want to finish that thought, I'll let you rebuttal, Mr.
Yeah,
Bravo.
go ahead.
Okay. Do you want to respond to that, Mr. Bravo, or move on?
No, I would just encourage everyone, viewers, voters, candidates running for office, to really do your research, to look at the facts, to understand the details around this program, and I think light will be brought to it.
Okay, thank you. And I want to move on to some of the measures we'll see on the ballot this November, because I think they really encapsulate some of the core issues facing Arizonans. So will you support HCR 2060 or Prop 314 as it will appear on the ballot, which would make it a state crime to be in the country illegally and require local law enforcement to enforce that law? Of course, why or why not? Mr. Bravo, you are up first for this question.
I will not be voting for Prop 314. I will most definitely be voting in opposition, because I understand. Like, my father grew up in Ajo. He grew up in a border community. I serve on the board for the Kino Border Initiative, a Catholic Jesuit-run ministry in Nogales, Sonora, Arizona. And I understand this was pure political theater. Proposition 314 was an effort from the state legislature to copy what they've done in Texas with Senate Bill 4, to say that immigration is a state issue when it is a federal issue. I've also worked in a federal congressional office. I had Republican colleagues who didn't even understand that majority of fentanyl that comes across the border is brought by US citizens. I mean, they voted for the bill. We walked to the lobby and lounge, and they told me they didn't realize that. This measure has 5 to 6 provisions that will lead to racial profiling, that will lead, I believe, to really damaging the state's reputation. No doubt the state of Arizona needs to do something about the border, and Governor Hobbs has already laid out her plan. It promotes collaboration with the counties, with the sheriffs, with cities. This was an effort to draw voters out to the election. It surely will face constitutional challenges. Growing up in Phoenix, I actually had the opportunity to witness when Senate Bill 1070 passed in 2010, but in 2011, when we were sued by then Attorney General Eric Holder. And I sat in the courtroom with my older brother listening to the oral arguments. Well, now as a legislator, I couldn't believe that in a year where we're facing a budget deficit, we would invite future lawsuits on the grounds of you are violating the Arizona v. United States. It's literally our state that set precedent that immigration is a federal issue. So I think it's harmful policy, it's dangerous, and it really has the possibility of damaging the reputation of the state when community stakeholders, I believe, have done so much to bring good businesses to Arizona, to create a positive reputation for our state and to make Arizona a great place for people to live.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harris, your thoughts on that ballot measure?
I think when the federal government fails to do their job to secure the border, then it's up to the states to do that, and that is in the Constitution, Article 4, Section 4. When the federal government fails to secure the border, how many people we got? What, 20 million people coming across the border, unchecked, and so yeah, I would give the local police department arrest authority, because when the federal government doesn't do it, who's going to do it? Who else is going to do it? Governor Hart, she's not going to do it. She said she was going to send the National Guard to the border. Did she ever do that? No. So that's my answer.
Okay, so it sounds like you will be voting yes in November.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
On to another I'm sorry, I missed you. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Responder, but 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that the viewers know there is no provision in this bill that protects nonprofits, churches, hospitals, public health clinics. When you look at our district, it's a majority minority district, right? We're over 64 languages spoken. So one of the major issues with this HCR is that we have mixed status families. So you could be a US citizen child with a parent who is an immigrant. If that child is eligible for public health benefits, now their parent would be vulnerable to being apprehended and being deported. So again, if you're running to represent a legislative seat in this district, I would hope you understand the very real harmful impact it will cause on families. It would lead to family separation. And I'm shocked to hear that anybody running in this district would support this ballot measure.
Okay, Mr. Harris, would you like to respond to that?
Well, yeah. I've been living in this district for a long time, and I see it. But the reality is, aren't we a country of laws? Aren't we a country of laws? Don't we support the Constitution? We're not looking to just go out and pluck people off the streets. That's not what this is about. If we would have had the border secure, we wouldn't have had the mass influx of people, not just from Mexico, and the senator is right, from 140 different countries. We're at the epicenter now of we don't know who's here and who's a good guy and who's not, and so yeah, I would support the bill. So
okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to another ballot initiative. Will you vote for the Arizona Abortion Access Initiative? And in what situations, if any, do you believe abortions should be legal? Where do you specifically stand on the parameters for abortion law in this state? Mr. Harris, you are up first for this question.
I am pro-life, okay? And I believe life begins at conception. And so that's my stance. And so what else? What was the other part of the question?
Are there, in what situations, if any, do you think abortion should be legal? Any parameters around legislation?
I think life is life. Where I say innocent life is life at any stage. I understand the horrors of rape and incest and all of that. But I would encourage the young lady to put the baby up for adoption, because in this whole thing, the baby is innocent. That's an innocent life there. So my stance would be there are so many other outlets other than abortion that the young lady could do. So that's where I stand.
Okay, just to be clear, you don't think abortion should be legal in any circumstances at all?
Well, if it's between the life of the mother, in a life and death situation of the mother, yes.
Okay, good to clarify. Mr. Bravo, your thoughts on the initiative?
I'm very proud of all the hard work, over a year that's gone into this, from organizers to collect signatures. They've broken the record, I believe, in how many signatures have been collected for a statewide ballot measure. I was proud to sign the petition, and I will be voting yes on this measure of Arizonans for abortion access, because we represent one of the youngest districts in the state. 50% are under the age of 29, and things changed after Roe v. Wade was rescinded, in a very real way. And I grew up in a very proud Catholic family, but as I was knocking on doors 2 years ago, just after the Dobbs decision, there were so many doors you could have the Virgen Guadalupe, you could have families that are proud to celebrate their faith, but would look me in the eye and would ask me, what is your stance on abortion? And when I would say, I'm not a physician, but I believe that needs to be a decision made between the patient and their physician. And I respect a woman's right to choose and to do what is best for their health. Every single mom, every grandmother just embraced me, just said, gracias, thank you. I think that this was almost like an experiment for decades, people working to repeal and overturn Roe v. Wade. But finally, when it actually happened, people took to the streets. We saw that in the state of Arizona. This year, we made national news for all the wrong reasons when the territorial ban was reinstated. And so being able to, and actually seeing Republicans wake up and join us as Democrats to overturn the territorial ban, that was important. From 1864, it's inexcusable. But we had 2 House Republicans, 2 Senate Republicans. And so I believe without a doubt, not only I'm happy to support it, but it's going to pass with flying colors with bipartisan support.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let's move into housing.
Can I say something?
Did you
Yes.
want to respond? Go ahead.
Can I respond? Sure. Are we talking about the bill 139? Is that the bill?
So we were talking about the Arizona Abortion Access Initiative, which is a citizen-led initiative that will be on the ballot in November.
Isn't that 139?
Is that the proposition number? I don't have it.
Yeah, the proposition. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's okay. So if it will go much further than the, it could go up to 9 months. So I'm opposed to that, I think we need as a people, I would say I can vote no and still have some compassion for that lady, that young girl, whoever it is, who's out there, they're scared. I only ask them to do one thing, is to think twice before you do it. Think twice before you have the abortion. Get all the facts, because that to me is a lifelong thing that a person would have to live with. So I'm done.
Okay. I do want to go ahead and move on to housing. I know that is an issue across Arizona and specifically in LD26. Cities, towns, counties are all grappling with how to deal with the homelessness crisis in their own local governments. But how do you think Arizona should address homelessness at the statewide level? Mr. Bravo, you're up first for this question.
That was the issue I heard most about when I first ran in 2022. It was as if every single neighbor had spoken to each other, right? And said this something needs to change, right? Regarding people living on the streets, finding people in their alleys, when you're on the I-17 intersection. And I think it matters so much more in Arizona because of the heat. It is unlivable in Arizona if you are not housed. And last year we had 3 people, their bodies were found on the state capitol grounds. And so I was really proud of the $60 million investment for the Homeless Service and Shelter Fund. That was historic. It was from 2023, the most funding we've seen. 20 million immediately went to the cities for allocation for a RFP process. But I agree that we won't fund our way out of this issue. I actually joined a cohort of legislators last year and this year to call on the governor during the hottest months of the year, so April, May, June, July, to use the state coliseum off of Grand Avenue as an emergency shelter place. And I immediately met with the LD5 legislators because that's technically their district. Ours just cuts off at Grand. And we had some really good conversations about how we had to remember during Hurricane Katrina, the state coliseum was used to house people in 2006 during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're just a few years removed from that. The city convention center was used. And so I am confident that the state where we have property and land, we can make those decisions. You don't even need legislation to do it. I would still advocate for that as a member of the state Senate, but we will need to see policy change. And I am really kind of intrigued to see what happens after the most recent Supreme Court decision regarding encampments and municipalities, because we know that when the Super Bowl came to Glendale, miraculously it appeared nobody lived on the streets, right? When Arizona has been on display to the public during these high profile moments, we don't really recognize the issue. But the question is, well, where are they going then? If they're not in the zone, well, I'll tell you, they're in our district. We see them and they're trying to find a place to live. They're trying to find a place to go through rehabilitation. And I am a firm believer that sometimes you don't see the progress if somebody is housed because you just don't see them anymore. But when you get to tour the facilities, when you get to actually participate in what they call it's an annual count, where people from the public go around and try to actually find out how many people are living in the streets, you do see the progress. So I can't say nothing has happened, but it just means we need to continue to make this a priority. And the hard part is with legislative session, you've got January through June, maybe July. This needs to be something that we also focus on during the interim.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harris, how do you think on the statewide level, homelessness should be addressed?
Well, I think the senator had some good ideas as far as housing them in the auditorium that he was referring to off of 15th Avenue. Homeless is a very I would say it's a very difficult thing because most of the people prefer to be homeless out there. If you look at it, I've talked with them on the street numerous times and say, hey, you there's a shelter down the street, and they just don't want to go. But that doesn't mean that we're going to just leave them out there to to die. No, but it's it's hard. You can't make them go. That's a fact. You can't make them go. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So I think if we increase accreditations to organizations to help the homeless, that will help. If we can cut some of the red tape on some of this stuff, I think that will help the organizations to do more for the homeless out there. Bring them water, or bring them cold packs, blankets when it's cold, shoes. There's a ton of organizations out there already that are really engaged in helping the homeless and trying to get them off the street. So I think and with the with the organizations, with the private organizations, along with the government, I think we can solve this problem. And it's a lot of it is drug issues. We got to get them help, meaning real help. I mean, like, get them off the street, get them help in drug rehabilitation. Just get them on their feet. It's not going to be a 100% thing, but if we can get as many people as we can, then that will help the situation. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I want to move on to a different but very similar situation regarding the availability of affordable housing in Arizona, and again, in your district specifically. The legislature passed and made some movement on some housing affordability measures this past session. Moving forward, if elected or reelected, what would you do to try to increase the stock of affordable housing in Arizona? And Mr. Harris, you're up first for that question.
Sure. There's a that I heard it's the teeny house, the teeny house bill in rural, for homes for the homeless. I think Barbara Parker, it's called the Barbara Parker bill. I think that's a pretty interesting and pretty innovative way to address some of the homelessness in this, especially in LD26. But also, I also don't believe rent control. I don't think rent control is the answer. I think rent control is it will cause more problems for the rentee or the renter. So the owner of the renters of the house. So I think homelessness is going to be with us for a while, and it's a tough subject, and it's going to take a lot of innovative ways to get them off the street, into a facility, on their feet, working, and holding down a job. So it's not a one-term thing. It's not a two-term thing. I think it's a long-term thing, because, like I say, most of the people that's on the streets, they prefer to be on the streets. I've talked to them, and I say, hey, you want to be on the? I said, you want to go somewhere? No, I just want $1. That's all I want, is I want $1. So there's a lot of churches in the area that also helps the homeless. So I think with a combined effort with the churches, private sector, with the government, I think we can solve this. It's not an easy problem, but I think it could be solved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bravo.
We've had very important conversations on housing supply at the legislature. The session before I was elected, there was a groundbreaking proposal between a Republican senator and a Democratic state representative. And the easiest way to describe it is it upset everybody. It was rolling back a lot of regulations on building homes. It was supported by the home builders, but otherwise it seemed to upset everybody. Well, the following year, which was my first year in the state house, we were able to actually work and break down a mega proposal into smaller practical proposals. And this past session, 4 of them actually became law. So I appreciate looking at that, the legislative process of what started as maybe a controversial conversation has now slowly become embraced because the public has been calling on elected officials to do something about housing affordability, about the lack of housing options. And when I speak with some of the city council members that represent our district, they always remind me that our district is so urban. It's more urban than most in the state. And so there really isn't a lot of room left when it comes to new homes. Our district includes some of the original John F. Long homes that were built in 1954, some of the original planned communities in the state of Arizona. So what we need to continue to do, I think, is invite the conversation, make very clear policy proposals. But the only reason those 4 bills passed this past year, again, was because all of the preparation done during the interim. There were 2 Democratic legislators who really led a lot of the conversations, and that was Senator Ana Hernandez, Representative Annalise Ortiz of Maryvale. They held monthly meetings with Democrats, invited Republicans. Even when Republicans had a press conference, they joined the press conference to remind people this would be a bipartisan effort. And I think the progress that we saw with the accessory dwelling units, the casitas, right? The in-law or grandmother suite in your backyard. What I really like about that proposal is that it started at the state, but before it became law, the city of Phoenix, the city of Tucson, other municipalities adopted their own policies. So they basically understood this must be important if the state is talking about it, but we want to write this in our way, in a way that works for local control. Well, as soon as it passed the city of Phoenix, that gave us the green light, the legislature, to make it a uniform state policy, aside from under a certain population, so it wouldn't affect certain small communities. But I think it's creative, it's outside the box thinking. And I think the other thing with our housing supply is if you look at my campaign, I have the support of the home builders, but I also have the support of the Sierra Club. And those are 2 groups that are often at odds with each other because when you talk about new developments in Arizona, you have to talk about water. And so having the support of an environmental group like the Sierra Club, that shows that I want to make this a priority, but we need to do it responsibly. And that's my commitment.
Thank you. Moving on to a topic that didn't see much movement at the legislative session this year, water. Arizona's water supply from the Colorado River has been severely curtailed due to the ongoing drought. Where and how do you think the state could find more water supply? Mr. Bravo, you're up first for this question.
Anyone who's watched John Oliver might have seen the segment where he spoke about Saudi and water policies and basically just putting a straw in the ground and little to no regulation to stop somebody from taking our groundwater. But I do want to remind you and the viewers, this past session, Governor Hobbs did sign 3 water bills, right? This was a slate of bills that facilitate responsible, sustainable economic growth, protecting groundwater supplies that millions of Arizonans rely upon. I've had an opportunity to do a helicopter tour with the Salt River Project to tour our watersheds and to kind of understand what are we actually working with when it comes to the Colorado River. And I think when Attorney General Chris Mays and Governor Katie Hobbs came together and said, we need to take seriously the idea of if you're going to have new development, you need to make sure you have a 100-year water supply. Didn't create that, right? The governor cannot create a law. It has to come to the legislature. That was a law already on the books. And so I think we're not going to find new water. That's just not going to happen. But we can protect the water that we have by implementing policies in a way that is careful, in a way that we try to achieve the security of a 100-year assured water supply.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harris.
Um, on the water, I think it's the rentals, I think, are the ones that are causing a greater problem, because they don't fall under the equalized 100-year water guarantee. So if you buy a house, or if you buy a house, or if you build a house somewhere, you fall under the equalized water 100-year water guarantee. But you don't fall under that if you build a multi-family homes, meaning many apartments and things like this. Now, I've been seeing in this area here, they're building a lot more multi-family homes, and so roughly, I think roughly the percentage is multi-family homes is 41%. Multi-family homes, and it is now roughly about 58% single family home. So I think we should start there. If developers don't want to deal with the water issue, so what do when they see land? They say, well, we're going to put multi-family homes on it, and so we don't have to deal with the water issue. So we need to put I think we need to stop that practice and let the rentals and the dwellings fall under the same, all under the same thing, equalized water, 100 years.
About at 2 minutes, if you want to finish off.
Sure. Okay,
So we can on.
Okay, sorry. I need to put a little timer up on my mic.
I have one. I've been trying to give you both equal speaking time, but I know these are really important topics.
Not a problem. But that's one of the problems of Arizona, and with California too. California is siphoning off some of the water in the Colorado River too. So,
okay, thank you. I want to get in one more question here. Survey respondents in a poll conducted by Clean Elections regularly cited prescription drug prices as a major political concern for their households. We know inflation is specifically hitting Arizona extremely hard right now. Statewide actions do you think could help alleviate those costs? And Mr. Harris, you're up first.
I think so. I think big pharma is it is what it is. They're gonna charge a lot, and that's hurting the little person across the board. Even here in Arizona, here in LD26. So I would move to. I believe that if we can get a pricing down on prescription drugs, that way our people out there can be, because with this inflation, the way it is, everything is high. So they need a break, but they don't want to have to make the decision. Do I get my medication or do I eat? So I think we prefer a price policy to that we can get the drugs down lower, and also access also covers a lot of that also. So access, you can get lower drug prices that way also.
Okay,
thank you.
Mr. Bravo.
I have always supported, especially recently, Senator Eva Birch. She's a nurse in our legislature. She has introduced legislation to cap the price of prescription drugs. That bill did not get a committee hearing this year from a Republican majority legislature. So the solutions are there. Now, do our colleagues want to listen to them and consider them is another question. But we've seen federally the Biden-Harris administration, as someone with type 2 diabetes, I definitely appreciate that they wanted to cap the price of insulin. And I think regarding our state Medicaid program and access, it would be a whole lot easier to implement some of these programs if we could confirm our state director nominee in Carmen Heredia. Her nomination has been held by the Senate Committee on Nominations. According to the news, it sounds like she is a part of the group that very well could move forward, but there is an impasse, right? There is a obstruction of progress at the state legislature currently with Republicans in the majority. And that is unfortunate to see it up close, to have sat in those committees, and to really know that we could be doing so much more for the state of Arizona if we just work together.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to say something, Mr. Harris?
The Dems always talk about caps, and the caps destroy businesses. So there are other ways that you can bring down, if we bring down inflation, everything else comes down with it. So putting caps on everything, that's a government controlled thing. So if you own a business, and I get it, it's easier to cap something than it is to do a workaround and find other solutions. So I get it. So I'm not for putting caps on businesses. I'm for finding other solutions as far as getting lower drug costs. How about just going to? How about competition? Competition that has always brought down the price of something. So these are other ways we can get that.
Okay.
That problem.
Mr. Harris, just to be clear, you mentioned there are other solutions besides caps, and I wasn't quite sure if you had any specific solutions to mention. I know you did mention access covering some of those drug costs, but do you have any?
Access, it could be competition. Competition. How about putting competition up against the drug companies? It always, it always works when you have a competition lowers costs. And so when we go right to put a cap on this and put a cap on this, I think that just makes it. They find other ways to raise the price of medication. So that's my. I just think other solutions like access, access has always been around, has always been there to bridge the gap, I should say, of the drug or any other solution. So that's my my approach on that. So
Okay.
okay.
We're going to go ahead, unless Mr. Bravo, if you want to do a quick rebuttal.
Also, lowering taxes.
Okay, thank you.
That's the way.
Mr. Bravo, if you want to do a quick rebuttal, we can, if you want
I'll
to.
add that I have no concern on capping prescription drugs because CVS is not going anywhere. These pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer, they're not going anywhere. So they own the competition. They are the competition amongst each other. They've set the prices. It is entirely appropriate for government entities to negotiate a price. And I think that's the reality of where we're living today.
Okay, thank you. That's all the time we have for questions. So we'll go ahead and move into closing statements now. The first closing statement will be given by Mr. Harris, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. You've heard a lot of information this evening, guys, and you know, the questions always come to this: are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Taxes are high, rent is high, food is high, interest rates are high. Public schools are not doing well. The gas is high. So when you put a tax on, there was a SB 1131, I do believe. I think that is the bill that you know, the senator that's the rental tax repeal. I think he was in committee. He didn't vote for that. So I'm an average guy. I don't have access to a lot of things that Senator Bravo has. But I'm a guy that's willing to learn. I'm a guy that's, when I'm in there, I can see what's going on, how things are run, which bills I can know the background and bring it forward. I just think with all this going on now on the things that I just mentioned, I think we should have a change, and I think with that change, I can be that change. And so I'm Victor Harris, and I'm asking for your vote for LD26 State Senate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Bravo, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Our votes in committees are different from our final votes on the floor. I was the swing vote to repeal the rental tax for the state of Arizona and as it affects municipalities. So believe me, and that was a Republican sponsored bill. But as a Democrat representing this district, I realized our neighbors are majority renters, which is why I joined my Democratic colleague Ana Hernandez to vote in that way. So I just want to clarify that. There was even a mailer that went out. It's just short-minded. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to remind you that we have 33 days until early voting begins, 60 days until the November general election. It is a sprint from the bottom of the ticket. When you think of our ballot measures, there will be 2 different documents in your mailbox if you vote by mail. And I just want to make sure people do not undervote. Be sure to fill out your entire ballot, which will include 2 cards, mail it back. And I just want to invite you all, if you ever have any questions, you're welcome to reach out through my campaign or my legislative email address, Flavia Bravo, and I'm seeking your support to serve a 2nd term in the Arizona State Legislature, because while I think we've made great progress, the work is not done. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Candidates for debating. We appreciate your participation. We'll be back shortly to speak with the House candidates.
So do we exit off, or?
We're now at the House portion of tonight's debate. As a reminder, the order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by alphabetical order by last name, starting for opening comments. Closing comments will then go in reverse order. Voters that are watching this debate live, as a reminder, you can submit a question at any time by emailing debates@kc-a.com. You can send a text to 408-840-8350, or you can call 480-937-1253. Alrighty, so we are going to go ahead and get started with the opening remarks. Mr. Aguilar, will you start your opening remarks, please?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name's Cesar Aguilar. I'm the House of Representative for Legislative District 26. I'm currently the youngest House of Representative, and I was elected at 27 years old. Now I'm 29. I'm a father of two, husband, and a son of immigrants who came to this country for a better life and opportunity. My family were undocumented folks who, in their lifetime, were able to send 3 of their children to get a college degree. I went on to NAU to get my bachelor's in political science. My sister went to ASU to become a social worker, and my brother even went off to go become an engineer. I come from a working class family who has been brought up with working class values. My dad always told me to remember 2 things: never forget where we come from, and to never turn your back on working class people. As a House of Representative, I think I've done a great job looking out for my district, which is made up of working class families. These last 2 years, I've spent my lifetime fighting anti-worker legislation against Republicans like Proposition 138, which wants to lower tipped workers' wages. And I need to make sure that all voters out there that are watching to make sure to vote no on that bill this November. I will continue to fight for working class people, regardless of party, as long as my district is willing to send me back to the Arizona House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cruz, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank the Arizona Clean Elections staff and our moderator for this evening, and all the other candidates for being here tonight. I want to especially thank our LD26 family and all of our friends and neighbors for tuning in. I'm Representative Quante Cruz. I am originally from Detroit, Michigan, but I came to Arizona to attend Grand Canyon University. And so LD26 has been my home for over 20 years now. Don't tell anybody. It's been my pleasure to serve as the representative for the last 14 months. I was appointed last June. I am a mother of 3, a union kid, and just support working families. I want to see Arizona be a place where everyone can thrive, and that families have the tools they need to keep up with this economy and with this market. I'm a big proponent of housing and education and just social equity in general. And it's just my pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to the debate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Edwards.
Hello, my name is Skyla Edwards, and I'm a constituent of Ms. Cruz and Mr. Aguilar. And I've decided to run in this race because I have not seen a significant change for working families here. I am one of those working families. And so I have put my hat in the ring here to see what I can do to make our district better. What drew the straw that broke the camel's back was the demographics for this area, and the fact that we are number 1 in children's poverty, and the fact that we're number 1 in people that are not finishing school. And we have a very poor district, and it's disheartening to hear that they are calling themselves champions of working families, because I do feel let down by them. But I'm a mom. I'm not coming from this from academia. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a real estate agent. I don't have any property investments or property development interests or anything like that. I'm coming here strictly as a citizen, as a constituent, as an individual. And so my perspective is going to be that. I am not a public speaker, and I apologize so much for that right now. I do have notes, so you might see me look down at the board sometimes, and that is me just trying to communicate with you as best as I possibly can. So my name is Skyla Edwards, and my family has been here before Arizona was even a state. We're from Sonora, Saripa, Mexico originally, and I am married to someone who is not a citizen. I am I'll just leave it there. Let's get on with it.
Thank you so much. These questions are similar to the discussion we just had with our Senate candidates, but I think they're important, so forgive me if it's repetitious. Homelessness is a huge issue across the state, but as you all know, in LD26 specifically, what actions as a state representative would you take to address the homelessness crisis in your district? Ms. Cruz, you're up first for that question.
Sure. It's been very interesting. I live right along the I-17, and I see a lot of our neighbors unhoused and looking for work often. And like you said, we have a large unhoused population. What will I do? Continue to serve in the bipartisan housing cohort that Senator Blavro mentioned earlier. We're meeting once a month, dreaming up solutions and thinking of innovative ways to address the housing crisis. Last time I checked, we were about 270,000 units under where we should be. And so looking to find creative ways to increase our housing stock responsibly, of course, when it comes to water and other things. We're also landlocked. The Alhambra School District just passed a rule that allowed them to create teacher housing for teachers on school district land so that teachers can work where they teach, right? And so we're just continuing to dream up solutions. And that's pretty much what I've been doing. I'm a real estate appraiser by trade. I'm appraising all the time and seeing how high the prices are. And we really need to help Arizonans be competitive in the job market so that we can keep up with these increased costs. We can increase the housing stock and it may drop prices and make things more affordable. But we also need to fund the shelters that we have, the shelter programs, and continue to invest, regardless of what the budget looks like. People need to be taken care of, and it's just unrealistic to expect people to be here in the heat unhoused. And so dreaming up solutions and continue to introduce bills like I have to address our housing crisis and support the work of others who are doing the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards, state solutions as a representative you make to help alleviate the homeless crisis?
Well, I'm really glad we started with a bipartisan issue because this is something everyone cares about. You leave your house and it affects you. And so one of the things that I found is that there are so many organizations here in Arizona that do outreach, that try to impact our homeless communities. And what we need to do is kind of increase accreditation of those organizations to kind of take the shackles off them and allow them to more appropriately help. That would relieve a little bit of the burden from the government. So that's one thing. The next is we have painted homelessness as with one brush, homelessness, but we are not taking into consideration the various causes that are underneath that banner. And what we need to do is separate each cause and divide and conquer, if you will, for each section of the population that is affected by homelessness, because it's not all economic homelessness. Sometimes it is mental illness. Sometimes it is other issues that we need to address individually. And this is something that absolutely everybody cares about. My husband, I was married previously before this. I'm a widow. And he was homeless and addicted to opiates. He died in a hotel room. And what I would like to see is some way that we can address mental health issues and addiction that is so prevalent on our street, that is tearing down families and tearing down, creating a bubble. Because we can address economic homelessness, but the difficulty is is all of the other that's weighing on top of it. So we need to find solutions for that. So that's where I'm at so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar.
Yeah, I want to start out by saying that I actually sit on a board called Cloud Cover Streets, where we actually look at homeless people as homeless people, being actual people. And we give them showers. We're able to give them haircuts. We're able to wash their clothes, give them a t-shirt, give them additional shoes during the holidays, and just make them human again. And that just that alone changes them to be someone better. And we've seen results of a lot of those people that come and use those services actually go back to do really good things, get back off drugs, get back into a house, and see them rehabilitate into society. And also to Representative Cruz's point, talking about affordable housing. It's a really, really, really huge issue. These last 2 years, as the ranking member of Commerce, that's all we've been talking about, from changing zoning laws to talking about capping rent. Capping rent is a bipartisan issue that I get emails from both Republicans and Democrats. And I get emails from both because we get elderly folks who are living on a fixed income, who now the rent just got increased, and guess what? They don't make enough on Social Security to be able to pay for rent. And I've knocked on those doors where those people have had to go live back with their children. They've had to go live with family, or they end up back on the street, or not back, but they end up on the street. And on top of that, to Skylar's point, opioid. This year I voted no on the budget. Representative Cruz and I voted no on the budget. And a large portion of that was because of the opioid settlement. The opioid settlement, the governor and bipartisan Republicans and Democrats decided to put $75 million and put that into the Department of Correction. The Department of Correction is not going to rehabilitate people. That does not work. We've done that for so many years under both Republicans and Democrats. It does not work. What we need to do is put that money to services that are actually rehabilitating people. And to that point, in Legislative District 26, we have the most opioid centers, clinics where people can go and get those services. We're probably the #1 district that needs to tackle the opioid problem. And we went along with the AG's office and said, hey, Governor and Republicans and Democrats, this is not a good thing to do. And from the opioid settlement, it actually said we legally could not do that. But Arizona somehow still found a way to get money to the Department of Correction, where we know it doesn't work, and away from people who really need it most.
Press the 2-minute mark if you want to wrap up that thought, please.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Nicole, can I follow up on one thing that I
Absolutely.
forgot that I think is important?
Sure.
We also need to address eviction laws. Like I said, I live right by the 17, so you might hear that. A lot of our unhoused family are unhoused because they're one paycheck away from being able to stay in their place. They didn't have that extra week or extra couple of days, and we see them on the street. And that's something I've been very passionate about. And I just want to make sure I look at that. It's because our eviction laws, the way that things are written right now, people just don't have enough time to catch up. If they get COVID and, we don't have CDC time anymore, and they're off for a week or 2 weeks because they're sick and they miss that pay, that one paycheck, that one sickness can cause someone to be unhoused on the street and get evicted. And so I just want to uplift that as well, because our community, we see that all the time.
Okay.
I just want to add something.
Sure.
If I can. I really, really appreciate what Caesar had said about the opiates. That was right on mark. That was perfectly right. See, I got my notes here. Just excuse me for a second. I do want to talk about how we need to invest in housing solutions. First off, was one of the things. And ways that homelessness, I lost myself. I'm so sorry. Okay, just a moment, just a second. No, I'm sorry, I lost it. I lost my note.
That's
So
okay.
sorry.
We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next question.
Sorry.
That's okay. Let's see here. We're gonna move on from housing. I think we covered that pretty well. Students face threats of gun violence in their schools, as evident in the shooting that killed 4 people this week at a Georgia high school. With mass shootings happening at schools across the country, what should be done to prevent such a shooting from happening in Arizona? And I believe Miss Edwards, you're up first for that one.
I think the way that we do education in schools is one of the things. I think that we have this one size fits all education system where kids are kind of expected to blend in. And we're seeing a lot of these people that are committing these crimes are suffering from serious mental health issues. Mental health that is aggravated by the conditions that they're in school. And that is something that we should also be looking at. It's not the gun, it is the owner. I am very staunchly in favor of Second Amendment rights. So that's not something that I could say anything towards, but I will say that we have a serious mental health issue, epidemic crisis that is just circulating through our youth, circulating through our communities, and we need to address that. I believe everything connects to one another, and so I believe that in some ways our public education system, our school choice, the different branches that we have can also help with creating a place for somebody who feels out of place. But schools need more resources towards prevention and intervention. And we need our governments to, for example, this last one that happened, it is shocking that the red flags were there, but that they were ignored. And we have to take those red flags very seriously while still protecting the civil rights of individuals, but taking those red flags seriously.
Yeah, we're at the here, but I do want to follow up on that, taking the red flag seriously. As a staunch supporter of Second Amendment rights, would you support something like background checks for gun owners?
No, I don't know that background checks are necessarily the issue. I mean, these were legal gun owners. This wasn't something that was going to show up on a background check. This is something that I think, had he applied for that gun himself, had his father not bought it for him or gifted it to him, that might have been a different situation. But I don't think that this is something that happens. It's people snap. So that is not what I think. But I do think we have security everywhere. We have security at the grocery store. We have security at the airport. We have security. Why are we not protecting our students? Why are we not doing more for security on campuses? So that's where I'm at on this particular issue.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Mr. Aguilar. Same question for you.
Yeah, when in 2015, I actually attended NAU when we had an active shooter on campus. And it's very traumatizing when you have to live through those experiences because you never know if you're going to be the next one or if someone that's your best friend or loved one is going to get shot. You start to text your family what's going on. And so every time I hear these active shooters that are going on school campuses, it rebrings that memory to me. I think there's common sense gun reform that can happen. I recently watched a YouTube video where I had Rush Limbaugh and Jon Stewart, and Rush Limbaugh himself said that most Americans want gun reform. They don't want to call it gun. They want to call it something else and market it very different. But most Americans want something done. Background checks is very easy. People that have a criminal history or people who have domestic violence charges or are getting called for domestic violence should not have a gun in their possession. There should be laws in place where that gun can be taken away by law enforcement. Doesn't have to be all the time, but at least when things are intensified, so people in those domestic violence situations can get that gun out of there. I have children. I also believe in the Second Amendment and grew up in Arizona and grew up around guns. And I'm a gun owner myself. I have 2 kids, and I make sure that my gun is locked all the time. I think that we need to put laws in place that when you have children in the house, you will be liable if that child gets that gun, and you will serve some time. I think that is common sense, and I think most Americans believe that should be something we do. You shouldn't just be leaving your gun around where your kid can get it and go to school with it. It should not be that easy for a kid to get a hold of a gun. Yeah, those are
Thank you so much, Ms. Cruz.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember I was in 7th grade when the Columbine shooting happened. I remember where I was at that time, and that was 1999. And since then, we've had so many mass shootings in our nation. And I know we're talking about schools, but common sense gun reform is just necessary. It's something that I believe that we need to do at the state and federal level. And I will continue to support legislation that will do just that. I also think we should educate our community on gun safety as a whole, and also support parents with locking these guns up. Like maybe people don't need, some assistance with getting like a safe or something, but responsible gun ownership is a necessity, as we see with what just happened this week. I don't think that we should be encouraging things like teachers having weapons and things like that, and giving teachers new responsibilities on top of teaching, 30 and 35 kids in a classroom. And so I introduced legislation that would curb some of the bump stocks that people use to create a machine gun from a regular rifle. I also co-sponsored bills that are common sense gun law bills, because if we don't do something, then we'll continue to see the problems that we have. I believe in background checks for sure. Some things may not come up, but there are a lot of things that will protect someone and save someone's life. And I also think that we need to be responsible when it comes to school safety in general. I know we saw that one issue in Texas where, the law enforcement didn't go in and save the kids. I think everyone needs to be educated, and that we also need to be really serious about the consequences of when when guns of parents get in the hands of their children.
I agree with Quanta and Caesar. I think gun safety and our students is a bipartisan commitment. And I'd like to see school resource officers put back into schools, because I feel that the most unsafe places are the places where people are unarmed. So I agree with that. I think there does need to be more training and more resources available to gun owners to protect their homes, their families, and to keep their students safe from improper gun use.
Nicole, I'm sorry. Can I just follow up really quick? Because Skylar brought up the school resource officers. The thing with school resource officers, for me and for so many of our constituents, is that everyone doesn't consider a school resource officer to be safe. And so sometimes they have their own biases and things that can be very harmful to children. And so I'm not opposed to having our children safe, but we also need to protect them from, adults that have, whatever problems that they bring into school when they do. I remember going to school and being checked and stuff like that, and they checked certain kids, and then they didn't check other kids that they probably should have been checking. And so I just want to bring that up, that if we do anything like that, it has to be really responsible, and all the adults involved need to have some kind of cultural competency training to make sure that children are safe, because our children have threats that are coming from outside, and then they also have threats that are inside. And so we just need to be more mindful of all the ways that all the ideas that we come up with, making sure that we keep our children and their safety at the forefront.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and move on. As I did with our Senate candidates, I want to touch on some of the ballot measures Arizonans will decide in November. Will you support HCR 2060 or Prop 314 as it'll appear on the ballot, which would basically make it a state crime to be in the country illegally, require local law enforcement to enforce that law if passed? And why not do you support that? Mr. Aguilar, you're up first for this one.
Yeah, when SB 1070 came about, I remember my parents taking us down to the Arizona State Capitol. It was our first time going. And I remember the hatred rhetoric that was directed towards my community, that just by the color of our skin, we were going to get pulled over and be questioned about our status. And I called it out for what it was on the Arizona House floor. I called the bill racist, and Speaker Toma wanted to kick me out for doing that. But I truly believed in that. And it's what got many of us involved in our community in regards to immigration reform. Our former Senator Raquel Teran led that movement, and I remember watching her from afar. I remember I tell her all the time that when I was a kid, I didn't know her personally, but watching her on the news and watching her fight and stand up against Sheriff Joe Arpaio and the anti-immigrant sentiment, I remember saying, I look up to that person because she's fighting for me and she's fighting for my family. And so I had to do the same thing that she did because I know there are kids out there who are living in the same fear, especially in my district. A lot of the people who can vote in my district, their parents are undocumented here in the district. And I don't want them having to worry if their parents are going to get deported or not, because I went through that. Immigration showed up to my house to deport one of my parents, and it was one of the most traumatic experiences ever. And I would never want that to happen to anyone. So no to that bill. And I hope everyone out there watching it will vote no, because it is a poorly written bill to give police officers full immunity. That is unconstitutional. That is horrible. Another part of the bill, oh man, I can tear this bill apart. I'll stick with that for now.
Thank you so much. Ms. Cruz, please.
Sure. I definitely am not in support of HCR 2060. And I also, like my seatmate, Representative Aguilar, spoke against this bill. We heard so many, this bill was piecemeal. So there were several mini bills, and now it's this one big mega bill, if you will. And each time we just continue to address the concerns. There are a lot of misunderstandings in our country, especially when it comes to people who are not exposed to folks who are not like them. And so what this bill will do will create a pathway for law enforcement to just start checking people and asking people if they are here legally or not. Someone may or may not have their passport on them, may or may not have their birth certificate, depending on what's going on. Just because someone speaks a different language doesn't mean they're not a citizen. We have over 60 different languages spoken in our district. 60 different languages are spoken at the homes of the children that we serve, and that the people we grocery shop with and get gas next to every day, just because they may look different or speak different or sound different does not mean that they are necessarily here illegally. And to have such a blanket, very super basic bill that way, and I mean basic in a way that allows them to just check people at will, is very unsafe and it's unhealthy. I think it's a safety issue, not only for our community members who are in mixed status families, but all of us. We saw there was a video down at the border where folks were speaking Spanish in a gas station, and they were being held against their will until they proved that they were citizens. That is unacceptable. We should not be doing that. I do believe that we need immigration reform in our country, but of course that's done at the federal level. We should not be giving full immunity to anybody to check and do anything. If a law enforcement officer does something or harms someone, there is no recourse with this bill. That means that they did something wrong and we're like, that's all right. Thank you for doing a good job and trying to keep us safe. You harmed our neighbor, but it's okay. We're going to get over it. And there's no recourse. And that was one of my biggest issues. Another issue I had with this bill, one of our colleagues mentioned that this bill wasn't about, our Mexican brothers and sisters, but it was about the exotic, AKA those of African descent coming across the border. That's also unacceptable. I think that this will lead to racial profiling, and that is very unsafe and harmful. And I just encourage every single person listening to this to read up on that bill. Don't just think that it's the one piece about opioid safety and other things. We can address opioid safety without giving full immunity to law enforcement officers to stop and frisk our family and friends. And with that, I'll leave it alone. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards.
I come from a longstanding Arizona Hispanic family. So I am pro-immigration, and I believe that there's safe ways to do it. And it's important that we encourage safe ways to immigrate. Arizona is a very, very dangerous, the road here is very dangerous. And this would allow us to direct people to the proper ports of entry. But it also includes measures for as Quanta mentioned, it also includes important things for fentanyl. Making it a class 2 felony, for example, which is something that we are seeing fentanyl on our streets. We are seeing the effects of it every day. And it also is makes it a class C felony for anyone to submit false information or documents to an employer to evade detection. This is something that matters because we were talking about homelessness, we were talking about other issues. We want to be able to provide for Arizonans, provide for citizens, and we want to encourage people to become citizens. We want immigration, but we want safe, proper immigration. This is on your ballot. This is something that you're going to be voting for, and this is to aid our efforts at the border. This isn't a standalone thing. So that's what I have to say on that.
Thank you. So will you be supporting that measure on your ballot in November?
I'll support it on my ballot, yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on to another important ballot measure. Will you vote for the Arizona Abortion Access Initiative? And to expound on that, in what situations, if any, do you believe abortion should be legal? Ms. Cruz, you're up first for this question.
Sure. I respect a woman's right to choose what to do with her body. I think that after birthing 3 amazing young gentlemen, that childbirth and having a child is a very big responsibility for one, and that there are many situations where a woman, her doctor, and her family might choose to do something different. We have those who need it when it comes to medical care. We had a constituent who, and make sure I share this wisely, who needed a medical abortion because her life was at risk, but it wasn't at risk just enough for certain doctors to be comfortable with doing it. So she actually went out of state to get the help that she needed so that she could make sure she was okay. She wanted to be here for the rest of her family. She already had children. And so that is one situation where I think that that's, her business and her husband or her family's business. I don't think that the government should be coming in and policing people's bodies. I just don't agree with it. Whether or not I would have one myself is irrelevant. The government, and we have a separation of church and state for a reason. And so I believe that the government should focus on the government's business, and that our internal things when it comes to our lives and our families' lives and our own personal choices are ours. And so I will definitely be supporting it. I encourage folks to go to my website and other places and get information that you need about your neighbors and who needed abortion care and why. Eva Birch shared her story. She recently had a medical abortion, and again, just educate yourself on why this is necessary and the women who are asking for our support. So I will be supporting it, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards.
I'm going to vote no on it, but I'm going to vote no on it because we already have adequate abortion access here in Arizona. And what's in this is an avenue to make boutique abortions. This is basically glamorized back alley abortions because you are able to have an abortion that is not overseen by a medical professional or doctor, really. This is something that can be done by someone, a doula or something along that line. It concerns me also because this does not protect teens and children. I was a victim of child pornography industry. I am tattooed on my body as a grown woman. I've been a victim of rape as an adult woman. And I can tell you that what this does is it protects abusers because we are not requiring people to get any kind of notice from their families, letting their parents even know that the situation is when an attacker can take the child to have an abortion or the minor to have an abortion anyway, without anyone knowing. There's so much darkness on this particular bill, but it is on your ballot. This is up to you to decide. But I'm going to vote no on this because of these reasons.
Okay. Mr. Aguilar.
Yeah, I just want to say sorry, Skylar, for what you've had to experience in your personal life. Being a lawmaker, you get to hear so many traumatic stories, especially around this issue. The amount of traumatic stories that you hear from constituents and people telling you their abortion story, and I would just counter why you're voting no. If a child is raped or if they're incest, they should have that ability to get an abortion. And that is very, 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 very important for people who are facing sexual assault. And so I just want to bring that up. I was proud this year, along with Representative Cruz, to vote on the ban of the 1864 abortion ban. And that was such a historical moment where we were able to get Republicans to vote with us. And I think it made women feel a sigh of relief that it is not as archaic as it was before. I think that this proposition is in the right direction. And I can tell you there's a lot of organizations who thought it didn't go far enough. And so I will definitely be supporting this. I am a pro-abortion candidate. I grew up Catholic, and in the Catholic Church, I remember going to Mass and actually watching videos as a kid of an abortion take place. It was insane that we do this in church. But when you hear these harsh stories that women tell you, it definitely you carry that with you, and so I will definitely be voting yes this November on it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move away from the ballot.
Have we completed that question? Because I have a rebuttal on that.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Did you want to respond?
Yes, I did. And thank you very much, Caesar. Thank you very much for saying that. That's very important for you to say. I really appreciate that. I've had 3 children, but I've had 7 pregnancies. I've had many, many miscarriages, and they lasted into my 2nd trimester. And one of them had to have a DNC. So I understand the medical reasons that people seek abortion. And I want to reiterate, we already have abortion measures and abortion access to women here in the state. This bill goes too far. That's all.
Okay. Any more rebuttals or
Well, I mean, thanks to Representative Cruz and I helping overturn the 1864 abortion ban. But I think we should have never overturned Roe versus Wade. And it's between between a patient and a doctor, and it should be nobody else's business on who's going about that.
And I just want to follow up. I'm sorry, Nicole, I'll try to be quick. So the thing with Roe v. Wade is that that was an issue of privacy, right? So the Supreme Court, they ruled that she had a right to privacy and that no one should be in her business. And after that, we saw so many things happen. Women stopped, doing the back alley abortions that Skylar spoke of. We saw women getting professional care and getting aftercare, right? Because, things don't always heal right. You always need support. We saw women coming out and not being shamed at the fact that they needed to get the care, which led to the back alley situation. People were using hangers and all kind of stuff. And I just remember learning about that growing up. And because of Roe v. Wade, we saw, women's lives being saved. The maternal death rate in Arizona is extremely high. And that's with these other measures. If we don't do something now and codify, solidify a woman's right to an abortion, a woman's right to privacy, a woman's right to do whatever she wants to do with the advice of her medical professional and whoever else she has in her life that she thinks is important enough to have a say in what she's doing. The law that we have on the books right now with the 15-week ban is not enough. And so I just want to reiterate that I don't think it's enough, which is why I'm supporting the initiative, the ballot initiative. And I encourage people seriously to look at these stories because, like Representative Aguilar said, we hear the stories. We hear from our constituents, making sure that we know that they want this to happen. And so because of that, because I was appointed to be a voice, I'll be, exercising the will and the desire of our constituency, which is overwhelmingly in support of the the ballot initiative.
Okay, thank you. I do want to move on to another interesting topic I think we'll definitely see again next session. Republicans currently hold a one-seat advantage in each chambers of the legislature. Regardless of how November's elections play out, what will your approach to bipartisanship be if elected? One voter wants to know if you plan to address the us versus them mentality, and I thought that was an interesting question. Ms. Edwards, you're up first for this one.
I don't like right versus left. I don't like Republican versus Democrat. I am more concerned with up and down. People who are being held down and how can we together lift them up. I think there is room for bipartisanship in our lawmaking, and it is certainly something that I would seek. It is something that I support, and we need more of it. We're not so polarized that we can't come together in the center and really work for the people in our district. This district does need, as I mentioned before, we have so much need in this district for change. And that's what made me go from constituent to candidate, was this left-right dynamic that I'm seeing in our House that's preventing us from creating laws that are really, truly beneficial. So that's my moment.
Thank you. Mr. Aguilar.
Yeah, I mean, it's a number game down there, and I truly believe in bipartisan. My first year that I got in, the actual first bill that got passed, I was able to lead it along with Representative Mac Ress because it impacted my district when GCU decided to move all these mobile home tenants out of their homes and dislocate them. So we actually passed the mobile home relocation and abandonment fund. We raised how much families could get, and it went straight to my district. And so I was very proud to be able to work with Representative Gress. Representative Gress grew up in a mobile home. In my district, we have a lot of mobile homes. And so he's been one of the representatives that I've been able to actually do a lot of work around that issue. To Skyla's point, what is very sad about the time we're living in right now is that MAGA Republicans have made it impossible to work across the aisle. The culture that Trump has brought into the Arizona State Capitol is just so ugly. The bills, most of the bills that get introduced are very one partisan. And when even though I represent Legislative District 26, I'm born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I went to college in Flagstaff. Any bill that I pass, I look out for the best of what Arizona, for all of Arizonans. And it's sad when we see legislators say, no, I'm only trying to help my district. I'm only trying to help my party, because we're all in this together. I tell people all the time, Legislative District 26 is full of working class people. You jump on the I-17 at 5 in the morning, it's packed with workers going to work outside of our district. And so every district needs my district as much as we need their districts. This is all of Arizona. And so I'm on the Arizona Commerce Committee, and we've been able to pass some really good bipartisan legislation. It doesn't get talked about it as much as all the conflict that happens in there. But I will say it is very hard for MAGA Republicans. They do not like to negotiate on a lot of things.
Thank you. And Ms. Cruz.
So I am a Democrat, obviously, but I've worked really hard to work across the aisle on common sense areas. We don't agree on everything, and just even with rural and urban districts, we don't always agree on everything. But there is a lot that we do have in common, and there's a lot of things that we can do to further, the lives of Arizonans. I am the ranking Democrat on the Regulatory Affairs Committee, and I was able to work and partner with Representative Hendricks, and we talked to stakeholders and things to address a concern that he had. And we were able to get a amended bill. It was a floor amendment that I made on the House floor, and it was signed by Governor Hobbs, SB 1042, and it was around real estate issues. He's a real estate investor and agent, and I'm a real estate appraiser. We're able to work together to see, the concern that he had, see some corrections. We have some more work to do on that, but we work together. We don't have the luxury of just looking out for our own kind. Humanity does not work that way. I like to say we're all family, we're all cousins, we're all humans, we're all one race, and we all have the same human experience. And so we don't have the luxury with the problems that Arizona is facing when it comes to the housing crisis, the unhoused, water. There are way too many concerns to be focused on solely on partisanship and focusing on your own neck of the woods. We're all interconnected, just like I was fighting really hard for funding for the expansion of the 347. And people said, oh my gosh, well, that's, down in Pinal County. That has to do with the city of Maricopa. What does that have to do with you? Well, folks in Maricopa come and have doctor's appointments in Phoenix. They shop here. We shop there. We have things that we go down there for. And so, transit and transportation shouldn't be a partisan issue or just focused on one area, because we're all connected. And so I'll continue to work across the aisle on common sense reforms, common sense policy that will better the lives of Arizonans, all of us. And I'll continue to fight with my Republican colleagues against things that aren't healthy, like budget cuts that steal from kids and give money to horse racing companies. So I've worked in a bipartisan manner. I'm really looking for all of Arizona to thrive. I consider myself a neighborhood and now state auntie. And so I'm looking out for all of us. My children may bring someone's child home to me, and that's a concern that I have. I want all of Arizonans to be able to thrive. That's today and 100 years from now.
I'd like to rebut that. Because I'm the Republican on the screen, there's this belief that I'm going to be extreme, or that I would not be bipartisan. And I want to reassure voters that that is not the case. That I am LD28. I'm Arizona, Arizonans as a whole, and I'm Arizona, then my nation, then my party. And extremism puts its face up in many, many places. I know that I'm very concerned about an endorsement that my two opponents have received from the Working Families Party, which is the #1 communist organization in Arizona. That is a concern of mine, because that is not bipartisan. But I have to give it in good faith that you two adhere to something different, and that your words mean what you say. And in that same breath, you have to hear my words and hear that I am willing to work across. So it is left and right in some avenues, but in some cases it's really not. And thankfully, many of the issues, this is going to be a great session for legislators to do, because many of the issues that are facing Arizona are bipartisan. So I'm really pleased about this opportunity, and I really thank you guys for letting me talk to you this evening.
Okay.
Nicole, can I follow up with that?
Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't appear to me that we've had any personal attacks on this debate tonight. But the Working Families Party is allies when it comes to working families. I heard Caesar say a couple of times tonight that LD26 is home to many working families. Everyone here is working, trying to put food on the table, trying to pay rent, trying to get jobs that are better, trying to up their game and catch the bag, if you will. And people are trying to get ahead. And so this district is full of people who are trying to do better. And no matter how hard we work, how many raises we get, how many promotions we get, we can just not keep up. The rent just continues to rise and things keep happening. So the Working Families Party is an ally when it comes to working families. And many of our constituents and our neighbors in our district align with the things that the Working Family Party is doing to help them keep up with the cost of living, and make sure that their jobs are protected, and to make sure that other things are happening. And so as far as it being a communist organization, I don't know about any of that, but I am very happy and thankful that I received the Working Family Party's endorsement, because they are working to better the lives of our constituents, and I'll continue to partner with them moving forward if elected.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can add too. I mean, as a Democrat, we're called communists all the time. So, whatever you want to call us, you can call us. But yeah, like Rip Cruz said, Working Families Party works for working families, from the minimum wage to healthcare, to better living conditions, to housing. Those are the issues they work on, and I'm gladly work with them on those issues.
Thank you. I am going to go ahead and move on. I want to get one more question in, and I'm going to actually enforce the 2-minute rule this time, so that we have time to wrap up here. Do you support the extension of empowerment scholarship accounts to all Arizona students? And what reforms to these vouchers would you support, if any, upon your election? So for this one, we're going to start with Mr. Aguilar.
I mean, I'll reiterate exactly what Senator Bravo said. I am not about gutting them. I think we should use them for what they were intended for, and that is for students who have special needs. But I am not for expanding them. I am not for allowing people to homeschool their kids or give them to private schools. If you want to do that with your own money that comes out of your own pocket, not the public's money that should be going to public schools. And that is my belief.
Thank you. Ms. Cruz.
Sure. I somewhat support the original intent, because I do think that there are children whose needs cannot be serviced in public schools, and that was the original intent. I also am pushing for education of parents and those who are raising young people, be that grandparents or other kinship care type situations, because there is a way for children to be educated outside of the public school without them losing their public school rights. When parents sign the contract for an empowerment scholarship account, they relieve all responsibility of the education of their child from the state. So the state is no longer, the Department of Ed is no longer responsible, school district no longer responsible. You are your child's Department of Education superintendent, you're the special needs educator, director, you're the everything. And when you sign that, when something goes wrong, when you have that empowerment scholarship account, there is no room for recourse. I mean, except for if you want to go sue whatever school that was in federal court because of like the IDEA Act violation or something. So you give up a lot of rights by getting a scholarship, empowerment scholarship account. An alternative to an ESA is an out-of-school, out-of-district placement. So the school district can pay for a child to go outside of the school district to be educated in a more appropriate environment, be that, you know, any of these specialized schools, and the school district pays for it themselves, and then the child keeps their the rights to their I just drew a blank that quick. You said 2-minute account. Well, that their education plan will be adhered to. So they keep those rights. They keep the rights to all their special education stuff, like their speech therapy minutes and all that stuff that's in those documents, right? They get to keep all those protections that are built into the public school system that they lose when they get the ESA account. And I know that personally because of my own personal situation with my son. And so I do not support expansion, and I am pushing for education for parents and families to make sure that kids have those rights. Because as a parent whose child was being harmed in a private school environment within ESA, there was no legal recourse, and we went back to public schools where it was safe and where we had protections. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Edwards.
So my daughter has autism. She went to a charter school, Arizona Autism Charter School. I looked into going to use ESA, but I didn't qualify. I couldn't do it. My daughter couldn't get there. She didn't make the requirements. And I can tell you that it serves a purpose. And we do need to expand it. It's not a finished product. It was put in and it does need some changes and some tweaks to it. However, there are so many different styles of families out here with so many varied needs. There are religious families who do need that religious exemption for their students, for the schools, so that they can educate their children as they see fit. There are other needs that need to be met, and if we need to make changes to make protections, in some breath of that, certainly. However, I think we are on the cusp of a wonderful education reform, and ESA is a huge part of that, and so I do support that.
Okay, thank you.
Nicole, can I follow up? Do I have time or no?
Yes, go ahead.
Really quickly,
Yeah.
I also want to educate everyone on some of the areas where ESA needs to be cleaned up. Currently, school districts are responsible for special education services like speech therapy or occupational therapy and things like that. There are folks who are getting the ESA whose children are not contributing to, the school district is not getting money to provide these services for these children because they have an ESA, but the parents are still bringing them to the school district to receive services where the school district isn't getting any money for. And so that's just one loophole. And I did run a bill this year to try to close that, and I'll support it. I'll do it again next year because the way the ESA bills were written and the way this program is working, there is money leaking everywhere. And so even in its current form, it is not it needs some tweaking for sure, like closing up loopholes where people can take money from school districts, even though the school district isn't receiving any funding for that child. And there's other things like that that need to be addressed. But again, I want to reiterate, I do not support the expansion. The folks who are using it, 77% live in super wealthy neighborhoods and things like that. And we've seen the data. So I just encourage people to look at the data, look at who is using this expansion, and ask yourself if the way the money is going is the way you want it to be spent. People are buying battle cages and these like really expensive pianos, and I'm just not. I'm a product of a charter school, but that's just not what funding is used for. Kids at public schools can't get
I'm going to ask you to wrap up that thought in a minute here.
Yep. Kids at public schools can't get, personal batting cages and things like that, and I don't think it's appropriate.
Okay. I did see a hand. Yes, very quickly, please.
Another problem with ESAs is that people who don't use it all are using it for college tuition. So while most of everybody else who's sending their kids to public school, we're not able to keep that money and use it for their college tuition. So there's a lot of reform, like Rep. Cruz mentioned. And it's put a huge deficit into our budget. Arizona has not raised taxes for a very long time, and it's almost impossible to raise any tax in Arizona. And we're growing this ESA account for families when we don't even have money to do it. So that's created a huge mess for our budget. And what the little pie we have to basically cut a lot of other things so that it can come over here. Meanwhile, all these public education that's been bleeding out for so long has never been funded. But now that we have ESAs, we want to fund it. That to me is a huge problem, and we need to fix it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ms. Edwards, if you could do about 1:30, that's what I gave the other two, please.
We came in under budget in the education system by $4 million. And when you do use your ESA, that money is bounced back into the public school system. So it's not necessarily a case that the money just vanishes and is never repurposed or reused. So we are producing wonderful, 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 stable adults through the ESA program. And we do need changes to Arizona education system in general. I know that our district alone is number, I believe, 1 for students not making it past 9th grade. I mean, we have a lot of public education issues. So these ESAs do give people an opportunity to seek a better education for their children.
Okay.
That's a tax problem we need to fix.
All righty, guys, we're going to have to move on to closing statements now. As I said earlier, we're going to do reverse alphabetical order. So Ms. Edwards, your closing statement whenever you're ready.
I didn't get to say everything I wanted to say tonight. And, I chalk that up to I'm just so new at talking into this little machine that I didn't get an opportunity to really talk to you about the issue. So I invite you to pretty please contact me with your questions directly, skywards2024@gmail.com. I encourage you to I'm going to be out on the streets, and if you see me out, please have a conversation with me. I really appreciate that as well. I went from just being a constituent, a precinct committeeman, a state committeeman, a state delegate, and I'm making this super huge leap of blowing up my entire family to become a legislator, because I do believe that laws do make changes in people's lives and affect them in such significant ways. And there are so many things that we can fix. And I think it's very important that we do have a bipartisan cooperation in the House and Senate. And I'm looking forward to doing that as well, while still retaining my conservative values and my conservative stance on many things. But I'm really looking forward to your vote. And I really encourage you to reach out to me. So that's it. Thank you very much, Skylar Edwards.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ms. Cruz, whenever you're ready for your closing statement.
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank everybody for their time tonight. It has been an honor and a pleasure to serve Legislative District 26 since last June. It's been one awesome ride. I was not a politician, but I am serving and growing in this role every single day. I appreciate all the calls and all the concerns, even the most difficult challenges that we faced together this last year. And I'll continue to push for that. I'll continue to push for housing reform, for support for our in-house community, for job opportunities, for training opportunities, so we can get better jobs and keep up with this economy. And of course, support our education and educating all of our students, regardless of where they may find themselves, because our children are now, they're not our future. We're preparing them for right now. And so I just want to encourage everyone to please educate yourself on all of the issues we talked about tonight and any others you have. If you have any questions, my website is Quante4AZ, and that's QUANTA FOR, 4 is spelled out, AZ.com. I'm always here to support you. And like I said, I'm your state auntie. You let me know if there's any challenges that you have, and I will do my best to assist you or find someone who will help you. We don't Walmart here. We deal with issues head on. And I just want to thank Representative Aguilar and Skylar Edwards for their time as well. This has been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Aguilar.
Yeah, definitely want to start out by thanking the Clean Elections Department. I was a first-time Clean Elections candidate, and I truly believe in the work that you all do. Thank you, Nicole, for being our MC tonight, and Kathy for joining us. As I mentioned earlier, I was elected at 27, and now I'm 29 years old. 2 years old, I became 2 years older while in the legislature. While there will always be a younger legislator coming in, and times will always change. But in the year 2024, I never thought that I would have to debate abortion laws from 1864, have to debate putting up the 10 Commandments in a classroom, even though I grew up Christian, have to debate about laws attacking our LGBTQ plus community, after HB 1062, the controversial Arizona anti-gay bill, was vetoed by Governor Brewer. Having to fight after SB 1070 and the rise of the Arizona Latino sleeping giant that changed the political dynamics of the state for the past 16 years. I never would have imagined being the youngest elected legislator in the state fighting these outdated laws. These fights are what have brought many of us young people into the political arena, and I want viewers to know that there is a clear difference this year between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats do not separate our nation. We fight to unite us. This election, I will continue to fight to fully fund all levels of education, advocate for free meals to students, regardless of income, work to repeal right to work in our Arizona Constitution so that workers can have better pay, better benefits, and a pension to live a happy retirement life. And lastly, I will continue to work to raise Medicaid for working class families, because it should not matter that you make just a little bit too much to not have health insurance. And I would appreciate everyone's support and hope to continue to support the work that I'm doing at the Arizona Legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this concludes our debate. To our candidates, we thank you so much for participating. To the voters, we thank all of you who took the time to watch the debate and inform yourselves before the November 5th general election. We encourage you to visit azcleanelections.gov for official, accurate voting information. Thank you so much.